This is Comica's Boomax wireless microphone system. It has two very unique features that I have never seen on a wireless microphone system before, and I have tested quite a few of them. So what are these features, and would you be interested in them? And what is the downside of this microphone? Does it have any drawbacks? Well, if you'd like to know more, then keep watching, because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. So this is Comica's flagship wireless microphone system. And before we begin, full disclosure, Comica did send me out this wireless microphone system for the purpose of review. However, this is not a sponsored video, meaning they did not pay for the production of this video, so it is not an infomercial. They just sent it to me so that I could take a look at it, and I've done some testing with it. Okay, so it's got their little logo over here. And this is the bag, and I'm just going to zip it open because the way it is wrapped up is kind of unique. Now, I've already been using this microphone system, so if you're wondering why some of this stuff is unwrapped, that is why. I do have to test these things and make sure they're charged up. Now, this is their logo again, and this is magnetic. And on the other side of it, this is where you store the magnets that hold on to the microphones, and they go on here. They don't actually go inside the case. Some people might not like that, some people might like that. It's all up to you. But I did find out one thing, is that if you go someplace, you take the whole case, because I did make that mistake once. And this is what it looks like on the inside. Now, this is a very premium feeling case. And I'm going to show you the difference between this one and one of the competitors. So I have a Boya case over here. Oops, flip it around here. And so this is a nice quality plastic, but this one they've added some kind of a faux leather to it, similar to that of what Ceramonic does. Now on the bottom it has some specifications. So it's 5 volts, 2 amps. Battery is 10.64 watt hours, 3.8 volts. Rating capacity of 2800 milliamp hours. Made in China. And there's the top. Now it doesn't have a locking mechanism, but it does have the indicator lights here. So if I open and close it, it'll tell you what the condition of the charge is. So if you want to know what the charge is, I got three on there now. There was 4 earlier because, like I said, I have been using it. And this is what the receiver looks like, and these are the transmitters. Now, if you notice, the transmitters don't have any display on the top. They only have some lights over here. So there's no lights on the top, there's lights on the front. And as you can see, it says Comica in nice letters there. And of course, this has also got that leathery feel to it, which is really nice. So it has a premium feel to it. But there's no room in here for the magnets, because I looked and the magnets do have to be stored in the case itself. So some of you may not like that, some of you might, but I do notice also that the clips are also a little bigger, which can make them a little more glove friendly. So if you're using it outside and you have gloves on, this may appeal to you, especially with the buttons that are more spaced apart. Now these ones are a little closer than the ones on the near stream that I did, so it's not quite as glove friendly as that one. However, it's somewhere in the middle, I guess. So, and now here is one of the unique features that this microphone system has that none of the others have. Now I'm going to go back to me for a second. So right now, you are listening to me on the DJI Mic 2, one of the most expensive wireless microphone systems that you can get. It is a professional grade 32-bit float, 8 gigabytes of internal storage, microphone system. It is used by lots of YouTubers all over the place. Now, right now, I'm using the wind muff. I don't necessarily have to use the wind muff, but I'm going to show you what it looks like without the wind muff because there's something I'd like to point out. So now I'm going to grab one of these mic 2s. I have one here. By the way, don't lose these. They're worth like 20 bucks. And okay, so if you look on here, they got one. If you look very closely in here, they have one microphone capsule. Okay, there's one. It's a good one, but they have one. And then of course this hole here is where the microphone, like lav mic input goes. So if you want to plug in an external lav, that's where it goes. And then on their wind muffs here, they have this like a jack here, which plugs into here. So it goes on like so. And that is their system. And if you look at the Comica microphone, and I'm just going to put it so that you can see it, there is 2 microphone capsules. Yes, you heard me correctly. So why does it have 2? I'm going to go back to me. So the reason why it has 2 is because one is a cardioid pattern microphone capsule and one is omnidirectional. So I'm going to put a picture of what an omnidirectional microphone pattern looks like in the corner right now. And now beside it, I'm going to put a cardioid pattern. And you're going to see that it's not a circle, which means it's kind of directional in that it only will it's going to naturally reject sound and voice or whatever it is from different directions. It's going to favor what's directly in front of it. So why would I have a cardioid pattern on a wireless lav system? Well, let's say I was outside and I wanted to capture some sounds, but maybe not so much of other sounds. So let's say I was in a park and I had my voice on there and maybe there were some birds close by and I wanted to get the birds in there because maybe I wanted to add that to my video, like have a little bit of ambient sounds in my video. But maybe on the other side, there might have been some traffic or some kids screaming or whatever playing in the park, and I didn't necessarily want to have a lot of that on my audio. Well, if I hit the noise cancellation, then that's going to eliminate the birds and everything else. It's not just going to eliminate selected things. We haven't got to that point yet. So selectable polar patterns can help you with these situations. They can pick a little bit of the environment that you want to capture and exclude other parts of the environment that you don't want to capture. And that's why they use selectable polar pattern microphones in studios and movie production. By picking up sounds that you do want and rejecting sounds that you don't want, well, that just gives you a lot more options. And I think that that's a really handy feature. As a matter of fact, I've often said that microphones are tools. There is no one tool that can do everything. You have to pick the right tool for the right job. So in this particular case, if I was in a situation where I wanted to capture some sounds and reject others, I would bring along this guy because that way it's going to give me the right tool for the right job. And I think that's kind of cool. Now, it also has another feature that the other ones don't have, in that it can do very, very long recording. So it has internal recording, but instead of 8 gigabytes, it has 32 gigabytes. Yeah, you heard me. That can give you 4 times the amount of recording that the DJI Mic 2 can, and others like it. So that is quite impressive for a wireless microphone system. And so if you're the kind of person that does a lot of onboard recording, you don't have to worry about it. And it even has loop recording, which means that once it reaches the end, it will automatically go back to the beginning and start recording over that again. Because the whole point of having the internal recording is to save your audio. Now, because it has 32 gigabytes, you've got a lot of space before that even happens. So this would be a good microphone for documentaries because you're going to be doing a lot of recording. You're going to be doing a lot of interviews. You're going to be doing a lot of that sort of thing. And having to dump your files all the time is not going to be very convenient. So the files for the internal recording will split every hour, meaning that every hour it's going to have another file name. But it can do 40 hours of internal recording. After the 40 hours, it will start right back from the beginning again and start writing the files over the old ones. Now, other microphone systems like the DJI don't do that. Once the storage is full, you have to delete the files before you can do it again, unless there's been a firmware update that I'm not familiar with. The last time I had full storage on one of these microphones, I had to go into the camera settings, format it, and start. So let's go to the downward shot. We're going to explore this microphone system and take a look at its features. Okay, so I've got the receiver here and I've got the transmitters here. Now if you notice, I have the transmitters and they got blue lights on them. And these blue lights are to indicate that they're not in noise cancellation mode. If I take one of the transmitters and I activate the noise cancellation, it does not affect both microphones. It only affects the transmitter that you activated it on. And this is not true of every system. So over here, you'll see I have noise cancellation over here. That is the indicator. And if you look up above that, you'll have it's in mono, which means that both of these are in mono mode and that the gain for the receiver is set to 6. So this is the gain on the receiver indicator. Over here is your signal strength. And over here it says I have 7 hours of battery life on the receiver. Now it comes with 8 when you first pull it out, but we're down to 7. Over here we've got 9 hours on the transmitters and they max out at 10. Now if you go down here, you've got little speakers and these little guys will have a line through them. So I'm going to just turn on the mute button. This light turns red and then I'll have a little line through the speaker, which means that this microphone is muted. If I turn that off, the little line comes off. If I hit the record button, you're going to see a box appear around here. Now this little box here will indicate that it's being recorded. This number down here is what the transmitter's gain is set at. And this one here is for the other transmitter. So I'm going to shut the record button off, which means I have to do a longer press. So a short press to turn it on and a longer press right there, and that turns it off. Still in noise cancellation. Shut off noise cancellation, just a quick press over here. Now we're back into normal mode. So that is how the transmitters work. Now, if to the left, then I have transmitter number 1. And I can mute it, unmute it. See, it just went green. Noise cancellation was on high. That's noise cancellation off. And that's noise cancellation on low. Still turns green. There's no other color for that. This is record. That'll turn red down here. And there's your mute. So now they're both red. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to swipe up, and then I'm going to swipe to the left, and now I've got this transmitter. So this one here, mute, record, noise cancellation. So if I hit the mute button off, now it's green, turn that off, and there we go. And then we're going to swipe up, and now I'm into this screen. So you can control the functions of the transmitters from the receiver, just so you know. Again, if I swipe down, now I'm in output mode. So if I go here, I've got stereo, mono, and safety. So if I'm using 2 transmitters, you might want to put them in stereo so you have control over each one so that the levels of one won't affect the other one. And of course, this is your safety track over here. So I'm just going to have them in mono for today and stereo. So if I swipe up, if I scroll here, I've got a scrolling wheel. This is your volume for your headphones. So if you're monitoring it with headphones, you've got your headphones, and it defaults at 6 dBs. If I click it again, then I've got the phone. So this way, if you activate this, you can play the sound through your phone without having to unplug your wireless microphone system. So this is a nice feature. So if you're using your phone to do recording, you can leave this on, and then you don't have to keep unplugging your microphone so that you can listen to that. But it is going to ask you for permissions on your phone, just so that you're aware. Then over here I have the receiver gain, and I can click on this. That's your receiver gain. And then over here I have your transmitter settings, and I've got your pickup pattern. So I can actually switch to transmitter number 1, and if I want the cardioid pattern, I can switch on to that. So let's just go back to the home screen for a second, because I want to see what that looks like. And if you look over here, there used to be a circle, and now it's a bit of an oblong. So this means I've changed the cardioid pattern over here, and this one is omnidirectional. So I can have this one on cardioid and this one on omnidirectional if I want to, and that's kind of cool. So if I swipe down, now I'm going to go over here. Now this is your EQ function. So I've got high fidelity, I've got high fidelity boost, and I've got low cut. So I've got 3 things over here. And so we'll just leave it on high fidelity. And then over here, I've got link the device, I've got languages, I've got date and time, and I have Bluetooth, because you can actually link this up Bluetooth for controlling it. And that comes in handy when you're doing a firmware upgrade. And over here, got screen brightness, factory reset, and information and certification. So there's my serial number. If I click on that, and this is the certification. So, and tells you the model and all that other stuff, so you need to know that information. Okay, and this is the brightness. So I can actually turn this up if I want, but you might want to just leave it about here, because, you know, unless you're in bright sunlight, you're not really going to want that. And then this is how you would upgrade it, and it would say enter upgrade mode. So we're going to cancel that. And this is Bluetooth, so you can add Bluetooth to this because it'll send out a Bluetooth signal so that your phone can link up to it. So you can add or turn off, or reset it. So, and then this is your date and time, and then of course for July here, 20th, and 1947. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is how the app works. So this is the Boomax app, and what you do is you have to pair it via Bluetooth, and it will show up BA7686. At least my model did anyway. So here is the microphone system. I'm going to open it up. Now I'm going to take out the receiver, and I'm going to take out a transmitter. Now one of the transmitters should link up with the receiver. So if I talk into it, you start to see the levels. And you can also see that it is on cardioid pattern. So if you look over there, cardioid pattern, this is your recording, 32-bit float. If I hit record, there is the microphone transmitter. There is recording. It is flashing recording. And it is also showing the time. Now I'm going to show you a picture of what the files look like right now. So that's what the files look like. It also shows that I have 5 hours and 4 minutes of time if I'm recording, because that will adjust according to how much battery usage I'm using. And then I've got the transmitter denoise. I can put it on high. Now it is on high. Now this light has turned green. And there is the receiver with all of its information. And that is how pretty much the app works. So you don't have to wire it to your phone to control it, and you also don't have to wire it to get the updates, which is kind of cool. Now, if you do want to use this as a microphone with your phone, you do have to plug it in through the USB-C port and then plug the other side back here. So you're going to need to have this part plugged in through the USB-C port here, and then the other part in the bottom of your phone. Now, if I go and hit settings, I can also look at things like the date. The audio mode is in mono. I can change that to stereo or safety track. And then I would just hit confirm. I can use phone speaker on, receiver gain, transmitters, and I can control them over here as well. Record lock as well. Pickup pattern, I can change it on here. And I can also format the transmitters from here as well via Bluetooth. I do not have to plug them in with a wired connection. EQ settings, you have high fidelity, low cut, and high frequency boost, just like you do if you were to scroll through on the receiver. It also has the ID code, and that's pretty much it. So that's what the app looks like. I think it was a well done app. I think it's very functional, and it's very informative and lets you know everything that is going on with the microphone system. Okay, so as you can see, it has a lot of features on the microphone itself. And that cardioid polar pattern is very unique to this wireless microphone. I have never seen that before. I did find a microphone that has a selectable polar pattern that is wireless. It is made by Shure, but it uses the traditional handheld wireless microphones that look like the Shure SM57. In other words, a big microphone. It is not this style of lavalier mic. It is not this at all. It is a handheld microphone that you would use for, let's say, singing, that sort of thing. And you can also change the polar patterns. So I'm going to put a picture of it with the price, just so you can see there's a huge price difference between that one and this one. Okay, so you get my point. So I'm going to hook up this wireless microphone system, but before I do, I've got to take the noise cancellation off so you can hear what this one sounds like with no noise cancellation. It's because I've been using noise cancellation because I got a fan in the background and I needed you to hear what I had to say. So I'm just going to shut that off. Okay, so this is no noise cancellation. I've turned it off. I'm just going to verify that with the receiver. And I do not have any noise cancellation. So you'll probably hear some fan noises and some other noises. So I'm just going to shut my mouth right now so you can hear those. Now I'm going to turn the noise cancellation back on the DJI just so you can hear what that sounds like now that I'm going to activate it. And that's what it sounds like with the noise cancellation on. And this is what the DJI sounds like with the noise cancellation off. So now, let's hook up this Comica and see what it can do. Okay, so I've got the Comica wireless microphone system hooked up right now. I do not have noise cancellation activated, and I've got the pickup pattern on omnidirectional. So this is what it sounds like in omnidirectional, no noise cancellation, and this is what that sounds like. Just going to be quiet so you can hear the background noise because I do have a fan going on and there's other noises going on as well. Okay, now I'm going to activate the noise cancellation. I'm going to put it on the low setting first, and this is going to be with the microphone in omnidirectional. Keep in mind, this has two capsules. So it has two distinct microphone capsules. So this is not a gimmick, this selectable polar patterns. It actually has two distinct microphone capsules. So I just want to be clear on that. So now let's activate the noise cancellation. I'm going to put it on its lowest setting so that you can hear what that sounds like. Okay, so now I have noise cancellation on low. I'm just going to be quiet so that you can hear if you hear any background noise. A lot of microphone companies will have a low setting for just for, you know, air conditioners, fans, that sort of thing. And then of course the more aggressive or the strong setting will be for like car traffic and that sort of thing. Can you hear the fan in the background? Okay, so if you can't hear the fan, you can hear my voice. That's good. Now let's put it on strong just to see what strong sounds like, because sometimes strong settings on these wireless microphones can be a little bit on the flangey side. They can actually kind of distort your voice a bit, and they can be a little bit too much. So let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so now we're on strong. So this is noise cancellation strong. I have the microphone in omnidirectional mode. So I'm using the omnidirectional capsule portion of the microphone. And we're going to do the same thing again, but we're going to put it in cardioid this time. We're going to do the same test, but we're going to have to do it with the other capsule because, like I said, it has two capsules. So we're going to put on the cardioid capsule, and then we're going to go into off, low, and strong for noise cancellation so that you can hear what that sounds like. Does it make a difference? Now, one thing I am going to do before we do that is I'm going to remove the microphone, so you might hear some handling noise. Okay, so normally you don't hand hold a microphone, but because this one has selectable polar patterns, I need to do this for this test. So if I take the microphone and I turn it all around like this, you'll be able to hear my voice from all different sides of it. It should be the same no matter which way I turn this microphone around. So if I have it like this, you should be able to hear like this. I'm putting it in all kinds of different orientations because with these little lavalier microphones, it doesn't matter which way they're pointed. A lot of times they'll just pick up the audio as long as they're close enough to the voice. Now, keep in mind, see if you can hear the handling noise because it has this leather over here. I think that might actually help with handling noise as well. And I also want you to see how big the clip is. It's got a nice size clip on here. And this is what the top looks like, and this is my voice from the bottom end of it. Here's from the side end of it. Here's from the other side. And here's me looking right at it, you know. So just listen to my voice and see if it makes a difference. This is omnidirectional, so it should pick up my voice from all directions. And that's what that is. So we're doing this for that reason. So now let's put this on cardioid. So now I have it on cardioid polar pattern, which means I'm using a different capsule on the transmitter. And I can pick different ones for this one or the other one. So it's very versatile in that you can have noise cancellation on one or the other, or a different polar pattern on one versus the other. And I'm going to show you the difference between cardioid and omnidirectional. So right now, I'm looking at the microphone. There's no noise cancellation, so you should probably hear a little bit of fan noise in the back. And I'm talking into the face of it, so I'm actually reading the word Comica. Then I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to look at the side of it, see if that makes a difference on the voice. Then I'll look at the back of it, and I'm going to see if you can hear my voice back from this direction. Does it make a difference between omnidirectional and this one? And then we're going to have this one, and I'm on the other side of it. Now I'm speaking directly into the top of it. Does that make a difference? Does that sound better? Does it give a proximity effect perhaps? And if I look at the bottom of it, now I'm speaking into the directly at the bottom of it, is it rejecting any of my voice from the bottom of it? Because a cardioid polar pattern should reject my voice from a certain direction. So let's just see this. So again, I'm talking from the back of it. Now I'm talking from the one side. Now I'm speaking from this side of it over here. Now I'm talking from the top of it over here. And now I'm talking from the bottom of the microphone here. So I should get some rejection from one of these orientations. So did I get rejected from one of these orientations? And does it make a difference? How does the fan sound in the back if I'm quiet? Is it quieter just because I selected this polar pattern? Does that make a difference? If I turn the microphone over here and I'm looking directly at it, did you hear the fan? If I turn the microphone over here and I'm looking at the bottom of it, can you hear the fan? If I'm on the top of it and I'm speaking directly down the microphone into the capsule, can you hear the fan? Did it make a difference? Now let's activate noise cancellation low in Cardioid. This is noise cancellation low. And again, I normally don't hold wireless microphones like this. I don't recommend it, but because we're testing the different polar patterns, I kind of have to do it for this. Can you hear the fan? If I turn the microphone this way, is it doing anything to my voice if I'm talking to it sideways? Is this polar pattern affecting the noise cancellation? Now I'm looking at the word Comica, I'm facing it. Can you hear my voice okay? And can you hear the fan? Now I'm going to turn it to the other side. So now I'm on the other side. Can you hear the fan? So now I'm going to do it from the bottom of the microphone. It should reject my voice from here. Can you hear the fan? So now we're going to go to noise cancellation strong and see how that affects this polar pattern. Okay, so now we're on noise cancellation high. And I'm going to start with it facing you. So this is me holding it with the words facing away from me. Can you hear my voice? And can you hear the fan? Now if I turn it to the side, can you hear my voice? And can you hear the fan? Now I'm going to go to the other side. Can you hear my voice? And can you hear the fan? Now I'm going to face me, so now I can read Comica. Can you hear my voice? And can you hear the fan? And did you hear any handling noise of me having to move it around with my fingers? Now I'm going to look directly down at it. Now I'm seeing the capsules. Can you hear my voice? And can you hear the fan? Now I'm going to talk into the bottom of it. Can you hear my voice? And can you hear the fan? Okay, so I would say that that pretty much concludes this part of the test. Just going to pin it back to me, and hopefully you can still hear me. I do have levels, so I can hear some levels, and they look a little bit lower than they were when I had it in omnidirectional mode. So you may have to change your gain if you change your polar pattern, so keep that in mind, because I did notice my levels are a little bit lower. I may have to raise them up in post. So now we're going to do a bit of a range test. So I put it on high fidelity, which is kind of like vocal boost, I guess. I don't know if I said vocal boost in the video or not, but just for the record, it was in high fidelity mode. So I just want to let you know that in high fidelity mode, it was not vocal boost. I review a lot of microphones, and sometimes I can get the terminology mixed up between one and the other. So I hope Comica can forgive me for that, but it happens. The other thing that happened when I did the range test is I forgot to bring this case. So if you do use this microphone system, bring the case, because that is where the wind muffs were stored. And because I was outside, I did not have the wind muffs, and it just happened to be very windy that day. But I do know a trick. So if you don't have one of these, I know a little trick that can help you out, and it pretty much does the same thing, and it also lets your microphone look a little less visible. So if you look at the microphone, you can read it. It's good advertising for Comica, but maybe you don't necessarily want to have that in your video, and you want to have it a little more discreet. I'm going to go to that clip, I'm going to show you that, and then we're going to come back to the studio and give you my final thoughts on this microphone. Hi there, this is Blue Collar Guy, and as you can tell, we have a thunderstorm going, but we're going to do a range test on this Comica microphone system. This is their Boomax microphone. This is their flagship microphone. Now, it's a little windy. I forgot the wind muff, but I am going to activate the noise cancellation. And noise cancellation is on, the light is green. And I've got my trusty measuring wheel to make sure that everything's accurate. So now we're going to go back to, we're at 8 feet. This is 8 feet. This is typical for most people that do weather or newscasters, that sort of thing. They usually go back about this feet, no more than 10. Now you may hear a little bit of wind noise. I'm actually going to do a little trick that I know. So if you do forget a wind muff, all you do is you take the microphone and you put it inside your shirt, and then you put the magnet on the outside like so. So you should be able to hear me, except the wind noise is now gone because my shirt is now acting like the wind muff. And that is definitely thunder. So if you want to know my commitment to this video, there you go. So now we're going to go back. This is 12 feet. Now we're going to go back 14, 15, 16 feet right now. I'm going to turn around to see if you can still hear me. Keep in mind there's a lot of RF interference because we have lightning in the sky. I'm going to turn right around again. Now we're going to go back about 20. This is 26 feet. I'm going to turn around to see if we can still hear me. I'm not facing the camera. Can we still hear me? And now we're going to go back about 32, 34. This is, I'm going to take us to 50 feet. 50 feet. This is 50 feet. I'm going to turn around, see if you can still hear me. I've got the noise cancellation on. I had to. And I've got it inside out. So if you don't want to use a wind muff, you just put it on the inside of your shirt like that, and it should do the same thing. Now, the sun is out. This is weird weather we're having. I'm going to take us to 100 feet, just to show you what that's like. So zoom in on me. Zoom in. Okay. And we're at 100 feet exactly. 100 feet exactly. I'm going to turn around. You can see, can you still hear me? I'm not facing the camera. This is what 100 feet is. I'm going to go to 200 feet. And we're going to go back. This is 120 feet. 130. 140. 150 feet. This is 150 feet. Bad weather. By the way, this is a directional microphone, meaning you've got selectable polar patterns. We're going to go back to 200 feet. And this is how ridiculous 200 feet looks like. You'll never be this far away. Your camera is going to struggle to try to get you in frame at this distance. So for YouTube, this is going to be way, way too far. This is 200 feet away from the camera. I want you to zoom out. Zoom out. Show the distance. I'm going to turn around. Still hear me? Crap. So if you can hear me and there wasn't any interference, this is more than enough for YouTube. Now, some of these microphones claim 600 feet. That's line of sight. That means that the microphone has to see the receiver. That's under conditions. Turn around. If I'm breaking up, turn around again. So now I'm going to come back in. And I'm just going to read off the measurements as I come in. This is 242. This is 220 feet. This is 198. $170. $146. $120. $100. And I'm going to go to 40 feet and do another test turning around. Not quite there yet. This is 40 feet. This is pretty much where realistically you would use it. So if I turn around and you can still hear me clearly, this is a realistic test. This is pretty much what all you would really need for YouTube. And that's it. That is it for this test. We are going to go back into the studio and we're going to do some more testing in there, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts. Okay, we're back. So as you could tell, there was thunder, lightning. It was really bad conditions. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out is I brought along one of these little guys. I use these guys. These are called RF meters. And what they do is they test for RF interference. These little guys right here. And if I turn this one on right now, it's going to show you that little annoying beeping noise. It tells you how much RF interference is in this room right now. So right now it's picking up the transmitter, transmitting a signal to the receiver, which it's picking up that signal, so it's noticing that as RF interference. So I'm just going to shut this thing up right now, and that is the levels at which it is picking up RF interference. So one thing I want to point out is that a lot of these microphones are using 2.4 gigahertz on the transmitting bandwidth. Sometimes that can get a bit crowded because a lot of things run on 2.4 G. A lot of phones, a lot of Wi-Fi, things of that nature. And they can all cause problems with wireless microphones, especially when you start getting to different distances, because those signals become a lot stronger than your transmitter, and then that's going to cause things to cut in and out. But all in all, I thought it did pretty good. So it's not all about looking at just the range or looking at just how good the audio quality is at close range. It is, you have to kind of like balance everything out to see where its strong points are and where its weak points are. And that brings me back to my main point, is that microphones are tools. So you might have some microphone systems that are a lot better at long range, and other microphone systems that are not so good at long range, but when you're at close range, they sound really good. Some might sound better, but they're terrible at long range distances. So you might need something that can do long range. So there is no one size fits all when it comes to wireless microphones. You kind of have to pick the right tool for the right job. That's why I review a lot of different kinds of wireless microphones, because it is like trying to screw in a Robertson screw with a Phillips screwdriver. You can't do it. You have to get the right tool for the right job. That's the best analogy I guess I can tell you as an audio engineer, that you have to have the right microphone for the right job. So the 32 gigabytes of internal storage is phenomenal. I've never seen that before in a wireless microphone. It is a lot of onboard recording. So right now I'm going to put how long it takes to recharge the transmitters, and this is how long it takes to recharge the receiver, and this is how long it takes to recharge the charging base. So this way you have that information. If you want to compare notes, you can. So when people send me these wireless microphone systems, I use them. I don't just review them and then just put them away and have them collect dust. I actually use them like the tools that I tell you that they are. And I try to get the most performance out of them, and I also use them with different cameras, because a lot of people aren't using $5,000 cameras. So I will use them with camcorders, I will use them with bridge cameras, I will use them with the Sony ZV-10, I will use them with the Osmo Pocket 3, because I want to know how they perform in all these situations. Right now, I have this one hooked up to my video switcher. So this is what it sounds like, by the way, if you hook it up to a video switcher. But if you want to know what it sounds like when you're hooking it up to different kinds of cameras, I would recommend checking out my robot vacuum video on the AirZine Q Pro 10, because I actually use this microphone system to film that whole video. And if I didn't trust it, I wouldn't be able to do that. And that's the thing, is a lot of people review different wireless microphones and different kinds of microphones, but then you never see them again. They always go back to that one microphone that they're really comfortable with. But me, I use them as if I say, hey, you know, this is for YouTube, this is for the subscribers. I'm going to recommend a wireless microphone system to you. I guess I better use it in one of my own videos, right? I must say it worked out really well, because I was quite happy with how easy it was to set up and how I could get the levels, and it wasn't hard to use at all. And when I was using it outside, I had it hooked up to a camcorder when I did the outdoor shot. And when I was inside using it for the AirZine video, for the robot vacuum, I had it hooked up to a bridge camera with a 1-inch sensor. Because these are different types of cameras, and different kinds of cameras will react differently depending on what's plugged into them. So when you're using microphone systems, some of them play well with cameras and they don't play well with other cameras. So some cameras will actually prefer some microphone systems over others, because it has a lot to do with the impedance. So as soon as you plug in the wireless microphone system into your camera, you're going to know that if it's going to be a good match or not, because you may have to jack the levels all the way up on the receiver, and even with the levels all the way cranked, you might not get any levels on your camera. It might be so low that you'll have to increase it in post. This is what I'm getting at. How well do these microphone systems work with real-life cameras? So a lot of other YouTubers are using $5,000 cameras, $20,000 cameras, and they have really nice preamps. In other words, you can really boost up the levels. You can do all kinds of things. But I'm using cameras that you as a YouTuber would be able to go out and buy. So it's important that these microphones that I'm reviewing can actually match up with those cameras. So this is why I do real-world testing to see if it actually works for you. So if you want to know what it sounds like with a video switcher or a camcorder or a bridge camera, all you have to do is take a look at the video, look for me wearing this, and you'll see what I mean. It actually works really well. This is what I would refer to as a professional social media microphone system. So what would I like to see on Comica's next generation Boomax number 2? Well, what I'd like to see is water resistance. So this one isn't water resistant, which means that if I was to use it out in the rain, I'd have to be very careful. So when I used it that day and I was outside and it was going to thunderstorm, I had to make sure that I came in before it started to really pour down rain. Now, I will say that if you have these little muffs on, these type of things, they can sort of keep the water off the capsules. But you really don't want to get any moisture in there because it can actually damage and harm the electronics. And that's not good for them. But some wireless microphone systems do have an IP5 or an IP6 rating, which is what I'd like to see on their next generation of this one. But there's not a whole lot I'd really change to it. The 32 gigabytes of internal storage, I don't think I would change that at all. So even though the 32 gigabytes of internal storage is phenomenal, maybe I'd like to put an SD card in there and recorded that instead, and then I could just pull the card out and I could have all my files all nice and organized, and I could even swap them out, that sort of thing. And I think that may have some advantages over just straight internal storage, and I've said this about other microphone systems as well. So the other thing that I would like to see on the Comica next generation would be an OLED display on the transmitters. So this way I could look at the transmitter itself and I could see how much battery life I have left. I could also change the features by swiping back and forth and say, well, I want to put the noise cancellation on low, and I could do it from here instead of having to go to the receiver. Now, some people might find that distracting if you're wearing it, but you could also, mute the display, meaning that you could shut the display off, and then that way it's not going to be distracting. But having a display on the transmitter could be beneficial. The other thing I would like to see is have a wired lav system that's compatible with the transmitter. Because on the transmitter, I have a cardioid and an omnidirectional. However, if I plug in an external lav mic, it's only going to be whatever that is. So if I had a lav mic that I could plug into it with two capsules also, and I could choose between omnidirectional and I could choose between cardioid, that would be a nice feature to have as well. So you would have to have a special wired lav mic with the two different capsules so that you could do that. Because if I plug in a lav mic in here, it's just going to be whatever capsule is on the lav mic. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. I'd like to thank Comica for sending it out. It's a very cool system. When I seen the two different polar patterns, I was really blown away by that. So take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.